Just give it a few more minutes.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We're just giving a few more minutes to get people in. Please bear with us. Thanks for joining.
Still got a few more joining. Right, I think we go. Are we ready?
We are ready.
Yeah, let's go. So welcome, everybody. Pleased to see you all. I hope you're looking forward to hearing about modern data protection with HYCU and Nutanix. I'm Wendy Inwood. I'm the Senior Channel Manager here at HYCU. Leading today's session, we have Coley Burke, who is our CRO, our Chief Revenue Officer. Coley's going to give you a few insights of the strategic advantages and integration offers your customers, spotlighting the partnership opportunities that we can unlock with you. Following Coley, we've got our Director of Sales and Engineering, Marko Ljubanovic. He's going to dive into the technical brilliance behind HYCU's integration. He'll also cover the seamless functionality with the enhanced performance and why our technology is the go-to for users within the Nutanix ecosystem. We will have a Q&A session at the end, so please feel free to put all your questions in the chat box and we'll endeavour to answer as many as we can. Also, this is being recorded, so we can send out the recording to any of those who weren't able to join today. So enough from me. I shall hand over to Coley. Let's go.
Thank you, Wendy. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. We appreciate you taking the time to jump on and learn more about HYCU and our partnership with Nutanix. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on slides. I just wanted to highlight a few things that I think are relevant for us. So HYCU has a long history with Nutanix. We were the first data protection vendor to integrate into Nutanix Prism, as well as we're the only new data protection vendor that provides data protection across the entire Nutanix platform. So when you look at the Nutanix Cloud Platform and their approach to hybrid multi-cloud, we support every bit of that journey. We are extremely tightly integrated. So that speaks to a long history and heritage. Today, HYCU is over 4,000 customers, 78 countries globally. There's actually 3 more countries compared to what's on the slide. And we do operate as a global vendor in the data protection space. One of the things we're very proud about here is our industry-leading NPS score of greater than 91. That is a very important score for us. We put a lot of time and attention to how we satisfy and delight our customers and certainly our mutual customers. At HYCU, we love to talk about the fact that we are truly data anywhere, protected everywhere. Nutanix likes to run that strategy around run everywhere, and we match that with data protection that scales to that level of opportunity and capability. What this means for you and what you're going to see as Marko goes through it, this is certainly interesting market times. With the market inflection caused by Broadcom's acquisition of VMware, it's causing a lot of organizations to look and reconsider what are they doing for their infrastructure, what are they doing for their data protection. It gives all of us an opportunity to be thought leaders and lead a very transformative message on how they can modernize. HYCU is all about modernization when it comes to data protection. We are something different than historical backup and recovery. We are built for on-prem cloud and SaaS, and we're particularly built for a lot of the as-a-service applications. So the opportunity that you have with HYCU is not only to go and drive more wallet share within the Nutanix platform or capture a prospect moving off of ESX to AHV, or someone that would like to kind of align behind the entire stack of Nutanix, inclusive of NUS, NC2, NDB, any of those things there, wrapped around with what we can do with Data Lens and the cyber story. All of this leads you to the point where you're going to drive a transformative message with Nutanix. We are driving a transformative message around data protection aligned with Nutanix's strategy. We see ourselves as someone that can help you on the front end. If there's an objection around, I've been using X data protection or backup vendor for a long time, or I have multiple data protection vendors and I'd like to consolidate, HYCU is the option for that. We are the best option for Nutanix. And the other side this brings to you, and Marko will get into it, is that we unlock new accretive workloads and revenue streams for you as a partner. More and more, we are seeing customers adopt truly the modern data state, which means they have a mix of on-prem, they have IaaS, they have database as a service, platform as a service, and SaaS. And when we say SaaS, we're talking about the broad category of SaaS, meaning not just M365 or Salesforce. We have over 75 SaaS integrations and growing every day. All of those SaaS integrations and the customer's data that sits inside of those as a service applications need to be protected, just as they would be on-prem. We bring those workloads to you from a data protection standpoint. As we work with Nutanix, we can take those workloads and we'll be able to drive those as a service SaaS workloads and drop them on NUS. We'll be able to drop them, go through NC2 into cloud. So there's a lot of synergies there, a lot of opportunity for you to have new and different conversations. We are very creative when it comes to helping customers understand how they move off of legacy data protection solutions to a very modern data protection solution that covers the entirety of the modern data state. That's what you're going to see today. We value this partnership. We value our relationships with our partners. We are 100% partner-led, channel-led. We want to engage with you early. We want to make sure we're offering value and strategic opportunity for you to grow your business, increase your wallet share, bring new thought leadership concepts to your customers. And I think you'll find with HYCU, we are very disruptive to the legacy status quo of backup and recovery, largely because all of your customers are shifting to the as a service, a mix of as a service, on-prem, cloud, SaaS, and that's what we deliver. So thank you for joining. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Marko and let Marko take you through some of the things that we can take to customers and show them what I just went through. Marko, all you.
Thank you, Coley. All right, that's it. I think you saw the session with the least slideware. So what I'm going to be doing is even less slideware, and we're going to actually be talking much more in depth and showing you the product in action. So I hope you're going to be happy with what you see, and you can learn something new and see how HYCU can help you. So why HYCU? So before we even jump into why HYCU, let me actually do the first switch and show you the product in action and show you what Coley was mentioning and how we grew from these days, early days of being HYCU for Nutanix and really dedicated to only Nutanix and supporting it, to becoming truly a platform, right? And uncovering for you with your Nutanix customers, giving you the ability to uncover new potentials and new revenue streams inside these customers. So what HYCU has in its platform and its portfolio is now something called R-Graph, which allows us, it's a free tool, which HYCU comes with equipped, and allows you through AD Okta's integrations to discover and uncover the whole portfolio of the customer's SaaS estate. So all of the SaaS, ES, DB as a service applications are going to be uncovered and grouped in different fashions, and showing you kind of a risk map for your customer, where you can, with thought leadership, educate them that SaaS is not something that is protected, and that it actually requires protection. And even though that all of us, all of our competitors in the Gartner Magic Quadrant actually talk about maybe 3 or 4 SaaS applications as Office and Salesforce and Google Workspace, right? The world is much, much more fragile. The amount of data we keep in these SaaS applications is growing every day, and it requires to be protected. And this is why HYCU actually opened up our solution as a platform. And now together we have a marketplace in which, together with our partners, development partners, also develop different modules to support different SaaS, DBS, infrastructure as a service applications. You can see also in our marketplace, which I'm scrolling, just how many of these applications we actually already support. We were just announced Google Partner, Technology Partner of the Year, just for the sheer amount of how many of these applications we support. And it's not only Google, Amazon, Azure, it's actually also all of the various other native SaaS applications. So that being said, this is where we are, HYCU really being a platform. And now it's time to switch into the HYCU and Nutanix, which is actually the topic also of this webinar. So let me walk you through why HYCU and what is it that we bring to the table to Nutanix customers, and why Nutanix customers nowadays, or why are becoming or we are a standard on Nutanix as a backup product. So first of all, why HYCU? When I say secure simplicity, what does this mean? It's a bit it's a bit weird, but what it means is complexity can never be secure. We need to be simple in order to be secure. So what HYCU is, we are a software-only appliance running on the Nutanix infrastructure, or VMware infrastructure if somebody wants as well. So we're just a small Linux-based appliance, no agents, no proxies, no complexity, right? Which allows us to protect it properly itself. So being a Fort Knox, if you want. So we really designed it to be a lockdown appliance, a Fort Knox again. You can even disable SSH access to it. So completely secure little appliance which protects the Nutanix environments and all the other environments in the infrastructure. From where we operate, right? We practically sell in all or being used in all of the verticals. One of the most popular verticals for us is federal space across the globe. And what this means is that military and NSAs of the world and so on have recognized the security we bring. And you can imagine the scrutiny we have to go through with these companies and these entities to actually get deployed there. So we have the DISA STIG certification. We actually have the common criteria, the NIAP certification, which is extremely hard to get. I think it took us more than 2 years of NSA testing all of possible scenarios to get this type of certification. So really, security is at the very core of HYCU. And just thinking of using Windows-like appliances and similar for backup is already giving me, it's scaring already the hell out of me. So really, the next thing is when you think about how we operate and the impact of all of the possible security patches which need to be applied to the OS, this is where HYCU also excels, because you don't want to be left on these old patches with vulnerabilities out there, right? You want to update as soon as possible. And this is where HYCU's really fast and risk-free upgrade. And let me show you also in the UI a bit how this all looks like. So I'm going to be logging into HYCU for Enterprise Clouds, which is our on-prem solution for Nutanix, VMware, physical machines, files, IC-loans, all of the other things, right? You can see that it resembles to Prism as well, so that Nutanix guys can actually feel very at home with this. And if you want to now upgrade this small appliance, it's just a matter of selecting a new version and clicking upgrade. What happens, we will deploy a new fresh HYCU with OS patches installed with all the performance enhancements and everything else, and clone our metadata disk and power it on. It's literally a 5-minute process of an upgrade. So in an enterprise world, this is unheard of, and it really helps our customers stay up to date, not lose weekends, and be happy, and prolongs our NPS score as well because of this, right? So it's really a risk-free upgrade, which enables customers to stay up to date with the security patches. So that's one thing. Talking further, I'm going to try to walk you now through some of the concepts and why we are different on Nutanix. And then at the end, also walk you through some of the solutions which we are building together with Nutanix that might be interesting for you in the coming days and months, right? So as we go through this, one of the things we are very proud of is always not keeping the customer data. We're not a storage company. We don't want to be a storage company. We integrate with many storage vendors, and we give customers the ability to choose what kind of targets they will use. So this is the concept of targets which we have, which is where the data is going to be kept by HYCU and offloaded from Nutanix into. And as you can see here, we can support practically any, maybe zoom a bit, any NAS box, NFS, SMB, iSCSI shares, right? We support Nutanix. Obviously, Nutanix objects was asked for us from our customers from day one, because Nutanix objects is HYCU being a VM running on top of Nutanix, it made perfect sense to have a separate cluster with objects, storage, and HYCU writing directly to it. So that's a very seeming possibility of having HYCU, if you want, as a hardware appliance, right? Nutanix objects with HYCU running on top of it. And then HYCU supports also all of the public clouds, as well as any S3 compatible storage as well. So the way we write to this cloud also is very specific. So there is no staging, there is no proxying, there is no complications. We're just able to seamlessly write directly into the public cloud. And obviously, immutability and air gappedness is very important in these ransomware affected times. And we do have this ability to have worm support on NAS. We have dedicated credentials, networks, so we can have segregation on networks and everything else. So really having a safe, air-gapped, immutable storage. And at the end, there is one thing which, especially when we back up to S3, which we recently implemented also, which is object level lock management. What does this mean? This means that when we are actually, or let me walk you through a use case where this comes in handy better. So let's say you as an MSP, for instance, or as a customer, you need to lock your data for a year. That's a pretty scary thing, right? Because you cannot ever delete this data anymore. Not even Nutanix or S3 storage provider can actually do this. And let's say you made an error, or if you're an MSP, maybe you lose this customer and now you're stuck with their data for a whole year. With HYCU, we control the worm lock-in mechanisms. We are able to extend them, right, gradually as time progresses. Therefore, you don't need to lock it in immediately for a year. You can lock it in for a month, and HYCU is going to come in and extend this from time to time, meaning that you avoid this lock-in from worm and paying more than you should, right? And then again, very important from immutability and ransomware protection as well, right? You want to prevent any accidental malicious deletions of backups, and that's what HYCU can also do. So you have a super user which has access only to the console, and then if somebody comes in and tries to expire a backup of a virtual machine application, a Nutanix file share, they cannot actually do it, right? Because believe it or not, still the most accidents don't come from ransomware. The most happen from customers inflicting pain on themselves. This is something you can prevent as well. And the third topic I want to talk about is where HYCU really adds intelligence into this, into the backup data space, right? First of all, we have something we call patented application awareness. So let me actually show you this live in action. So what in a classic world, you need to provide us with, or your backup software with credentials on where to store it, where the database is, on which server, where the logs are, what are the credentials, what are the versions of the application and everything else. With HYCU, you just give us credentials which are assigned to this particular machine. And then HYCU is the one which is actually going to discover, when run discovery, we will show you under applications the apps we discovered inside your environment. So you can then assign a policy and focus on the application itself without worrying if this is properly protected. HYCU is the one making sure that the application is properly protected. And then allowing you, so this means properly protected. This means you are quiescing the database, truncating the logs at the end. So you're getting application consistent backup through also allowing you granular recovery as well. So into a point in time or into a different server, recognizing different availability groups, SQLs, Exchange, and so on. All of this without any use of agents, right? And this is where the patented approach comes from HYCU, because we don't make customers manage any of these things, and this is what customers really love and enjoy. They can assign a policy on the app, focus on the app, and make sure the application is protected, get granular recovery, and not tangle any agents at all. The other thing, which is also very special, when we think about instant recovery, right? How is it that we can perform on Nutanix the fastest possible instant recovery? And when you think about it, there is nothing faster than the snapshot itself, which is already kept on Nutanix. So when we do backups of the virtual machine, for instance, or even Nutanix file shares, what we do is we will trigger a snapshot, and then this snapshot we will use as basis to get change blocks and offload the data to the storage, right? So what if we would be able to have a fast restore option which will tell us, hey, the snapshot which you used for the backup, keep it around on the system for a week or two, or a couple of days. Why? Because restores usually happen from within the first couple of days when you need them. And you, in this case, what would happen is HYCU would keep the snapshot around. These would be snapshots which are managed completely and seen only by HYCU. And they would effectively be another copy of the customer data. And you would be able to recover a single file or a full VM restore or a cloning of a single disk or a cloning of a virtual machine from this snapshot itself, right? So this would be truly instantaneous recovery on Nutanix. And what's interesting, this works for Nutanix AHV as well as Nutanix ES6, right? So a lot of times, a lot of products, if you would to add Nutanix as a source into HYCU or into any other product, and you would add a Nutanix ES6 cluster, what would happen is the product would actually be doing VMware snapshots, which are far less superior than Nutanix storage layer snapshots. So what HYCU is able to do, if you have Nutanix ES6 cluster, HYCU is going to actually do Nutanix snapshots, Nutanix ES6i, Nutanix storage layer snapshots, right? Therefore, there's no VM stun effect. You get the instantaneous recovery and all of the other perks, which is fully utilizing your Nutanix infrastructure as it should be. Right? Obviously, if you're on VMware and you're adding a vCenter server, you can do this normally, and HYCU is going to do classic VDP snapshots, as you would imagine. Another piece of value-add intelligence, which is very, very specific to HYCU in the industry, is the fact that we do policy-based protection with something we call recovery assurance. So let me show you this in action. This is a really special feature, which customers are asking for years, and it's a struggle, eternal struggle on how do you know if you can actually restore the data inside the business time frame. So let's say the business says, I can't afford to lose more than a day of work. That means HYCU is going to be doing backups once a day. But let's say then HYCU should restore the data inside 4 hours if something happens. Okay, this is a business mandated thing. And when we ask customers, are you aware, can you actually restore your data inside 4 hours? The question is usually answered as, well, we don't really know. We tested a bit with a couple of VMs, but we are never sure if we can do this. This is where HYCU comes in. So inside the HYCU's policies, you don't only have RPO, you have also the RTO. And based on this RTO, we will estimate how much time it's going to take us to restore the data. We follow the throughputs of various machines, of various storage targets. We follow this constantly. And based on this and the sizes of the data, we are able to estimate the time which is taking us to recover the data. So if I hover here on compliancy, you can see that estimated time for recovery, I can zoom in a bit, estimated time for recovery is 19 minutes, which means you are compliant because the policy said we should be able to restore it in 12 hours. And now you're compliant to the business. So the customer can sleep tight, everything is green and compliant, you can restore the data if it's lost. And if something changes in the environment, network is slow, or somebody added a big disk, then the compliance is going to change. The estimations are going to change, and then you can get notified, drill in, and take actions before it's too late. So very interesting feature, especially for MSPs, for instance, as well, that they can report to their customers on compliance. And partners can report on compliance, not only from the backup perspective, but also from the restore perspective. And last but not least, another interesting thing when it comes to Nutanix is from automation perspective. Obviously, we want to automate as much as possible in today's world. And what HYCU has is the ability to integrate not only with Prism Element, but also with Prism Central. And what this gives us is an option that we can automatically, based on the different, let's say this is an MSP, you can use these kind of tags, or this is a development environment. So based on the Prism Central categories, or even VMware tags, HYCU can automatically assign the appropriate policy out of the box. So when we discover the VM, if it has this tag assigned, we will automatically assign the appropriate policy. And if somebody forgot this, you also have the option of having the default policy, so nothing can come uncatched, so to say. We will always be able to catch all of these all of these new workloads, and you won't ever be asked the question, hey, we forgot to back up something I didn't tell you, and so on. Right? So this type of automation is there as well for the virtual machines. I'll talk more about this in the self-service part, because we can assign the virtual machines to our tenants also based on these Prism Central categories. And last but not least, before we dive into some of the interesting solutions which we're building together with Nutanix, a couple of other things which help us with ransomware in general and protection. So all of these things which I was mentioning actually talk about how we help with ransomware. Our immediate upgrade helps with ransomware, application awareness. One thing which is interesting when you run on a platform, which is like Nutanix, and you're protecting Nutanix platform, you really want to be able to immediately upgrade to on this platform, because a new OS patch is released or a new Nutanix releases some kind of fix. You want to be able to update Nutanix and remain with your backups. And HYCU is actually built, used by Nutanix engineering a lot of times for testing internally and for a lot of development of new things. And HYCU therefore supports all of the new Nutanix releases out of the box. And this is a big plus when it comes to some competition, which takes months sometimes to actually support a new Nutanix release. And this is what our customers and Nutanix customers really love about this staying up to date with everything. Another thing, HYCU is obviously able to inform you on any change rate anomalies, and if you have some issues with your access of the storage, you can perform automated restore testing as well. So this is something we have built into the product as well, so that you can perform occasional, or we call it validation, so that you can do for audit purposes or any other purposes, you can perform restores of the environment of different virtual machines and run custom scripts there to make sure that the backups are actually fully functioning and proper, and then you can delete it at the end. And what this helps with, again, is that RTO assurance estimations, because now HYCU is going to be using all of this data which you tested to make sure that the restore times are up to date, and that your estimations and your recovery assurance is that more accurate, which is a great thing to know, that when you see that green compliance checkbox, you can rest assured you can restore the data. And the last thing before jumping into these solutions, I want to just briefly walk you through the self-service or the multi-tenancy concept in HYCU and the way we built it, because it's really important to understand also some of the solutions which we are building together. So what HYCU has built is the self-service concept, and in it, if let's say it's designed for two purposes: bigger companies who have smaller entities or smaller teams inside their IT organizations, or MSP likes internal, external MSPs who want to share share HYCU and share protection with customers themselves and protect their customers in a separate, segregated fashion. So what HYCU can do is you can create new groups, user groups or tenants inside HYCU. As I mentioned, when you add this, you can also make sure that you add a tag, and then HYCU is automatically, based on the Prism Central tag, assigning the VM to this particular tenant. When you add users into this group, you have control over what kind of a role they have. So it's a role-based approach. Somebody can just be a viewer. Maybe you can give them a restore operator role. And what you would do is simply assign ownership of particular set of VMs to this user, right? When you do that, the owner of that VM becomes that customer or that group of people in the, let's say, DevOps world, if this is a DevOps team doing this. And then the IT and the DevOps team, when they log into HYCU, me as an IT, I can switch, right? What happens is I will be able to see only my VMs which are assigned to me, which I own. And then based on the role which was given to me, I can perform different actions, maybe do restores, maybe do backups, discover applications, everything else. What I will not be able to see is see the targets, right? Because that's IT's job. I will not be able to edit the policies, because policies are defined and designed by the IT organizations, but I can assign them to these virtual machines. And this is where the multi-tenancy is fully baked into the product since day one, version one. API supported fully. Everything is baked into the product. Each of these tenants has a separate schema, so it's full segregation. And this leads me to talk about the unique HYCU solutions which we offer together with Nutanix on the market today, and why they're interesting, and why I think this can help you also reach out to your customers and gain some more traction with some of them. So what we designed is HYCU for Nutanix MSP solution. Why? Well, Corey mentioned at the beginning, obviously Broadcom and VMware are meaning that for big number of MSPs are searching for alternatives, as well as XyLeap, there is end of life of that solution as well inside Nutanix. So what HYCU brings on top of Nutanix is true multi-tenancy from data protection perspective. We are the only solution who supports VPCs, Nutanix VPCs networks. If Nutanix uses VPCs, no other solution can actually back up this environment. And HYCU, again, being very special with Nutanix, we support this fully. And with the self-service approach, which I just explained, this is how we can offer full multi-tenancy with full automation. And how this looks like is, this means that you can have HYCU operating on a Nutanix cluster. This can be a storage cluster, or it can be Nutanix's MSP cluster. It doesn't really matter. You can have multi-tenancy, each tenant backing up data from different customers, be it on Nutanix, be it on VMware, having the backups for every incremental archives happening into the MSP world, and then allowing the customer themselves to log into HYCU and perform their own recoveries if needed. Obviously, they can reach out to the MSP as well, but they can also perform recoveries on their own. And what's really good about it is that isolation is baked into the product also from the restore perspective. So the user and this customer cannot restore their VM into some other network, into some other container on Nutanix. So they're really locked into the VPCs and the containers they operate in on Nutanix, which is something Nutanix can hardly achieve, because if somebody logs into Nutanix, they'll be able to see the whole thing. Whereas with HYCU, they're able to see only their own things and perform recoveries only into a limited kindergarten, if you want. And then perform recoveries, or we can perform cloning to provide instantaneous recoveries and instantaneous power-ons. So a design which we're already implementing with a number of partners, as I said, to replace either XyLeap or to help MSPs who are struggling with VMware today, right? So obviously we are here for many more questions, as well as after the session or direct. Another thing which we are happy to provide a solution for is NDB. So Nutanix databases, what's happening today is a lot of, especially big customers, use NDB. And what happens is they start using Nutanix snapshots too much, if you want. So they start keeping snapshots as though they were backups and keep them around for months and months and years, and a huge amount of them. And this obviously impacts the performance of these clusters, as well as introduces more cost, because these are costly resources. So what HYCU can bring on top of NDB is provide a true data protection, 3-to-1, having your copies on worm-protected data, everything we talked about. Therefore, improve performance of Nutanix production clusters, because you don't have to keep all of the snapshots anymore on Nutanix. You can keep a smaller amount of snapshots on Nutanix and then have HYCU perform actual backups. And because HYCU treats, when we're doing a backup of these NDB managed machines, we are backing up OS and the database disk all as a whole, which means in the case of OS failures, we provide a very seamless approach to recovery of these machines, whereas with NDB snapshots are protecting and focusing only on the database itself, not on the OS. So us together really provide a holistic approach to protecting the NDB data, and HYCU on top then provides simple and fast file level recovery, additional database options if you want to do a dumps, something like this. All of these things are there with HYCU for NDB, right? How it looks like, for instance, in a true example, HYCU, what's powering this really is the option that HYCU is the only solution out there in the market who's able to back up snapshot-wise backup volume groups on Nutanix. So nobody else can back up volume groups through snapshots and change block tracking. So same as we do disks of the VMs, we're able to recognize the volume groups which are on the disks, which are on the VMs attached, and we are able to back them up in the same way, right? We back up a VM, we recognize the volume groups, we back up all the disks of the volume groups through snapshots. And this is what is really powering this functionality. Plus the ability of ours to recognize the databases and provide an application consistent backups without touching the logs, because we let the NDB handle the logs. So NDB can handle the logs, we can do a restore, and you can use NDB to perform point in time, or use their time machine to get into point in time. Where HYCU helps is provide this disaster recovery options. Plus, for instance, you can spin up into cloud, you can perform recovery into a different environment and so on. So there is much more coming from us on this topic of NDB. Stay tuned with this, with us on this. But already like this, it's an amazing solution, and through integration with Nutanix and their time machine. A third one, which I wanted to mention briefly, is HV Metro. I know for instance, in US, maybe it's not that popular. In EMEA, it's pretty popular. The Metro setups of VMware, and obviously Nutanix now has a pretty robust solution of HV Metro now. And there is, I think, 70% of Nutanix customers are using HV, and there's probably a number of these not using are still on Metro and ES6. And it's a great use case for Nutanix and partners to get these customers to move to Nutanix HV. The problem with this is that all of the other solutions don't recognize that the VM has moved from one node to another node of the cluster in a failover situation. And they will recognize this as a new VM and start protecting it again. What HYCU is able to do is we are able to recognize that the VM in an HV setup has moved from one cluster to another and seamlessly continue protecting it on the other cluster. And when it comes back again. So very unique functionality again of HYCU on top of Nutanix, which can help protect the HV setups as you get the customers to move to HV Metro. Last but not least, Nutanix files. Nutanix file support and how HYCU supports them. We've been with them since day one, really. We have been using change file tracking integration of Nutanix to get a true Nutanix protection of Nutanix files. So how this works is let me show you here. What we add is Nutanix file servers into HYCU, the virtual IPs, the virtual networks. And what we are then able to do is we will do the snapshot of this cluster, of this share, and we are able to then recover a single file or a folder. So we will catalog all the data, get the changes from Nutanix in a second, instead of traversing the whole file tree, which is the biggest plus of us using the change file tracking of Nutanix and not reinventing the wheel. And where you see this integration again with HYCU and Nutanix. And then we catalog it and back it up. So the restore can happen back into an external share or back into another file share of any sort on Nutanix, where you can keep original settings, different locations, all of these things. It's a very, very robust solution with huge amount of files which we are protecting with Nutanix already. We have a concept also of HYCU instances, which help us scale so that we can have many of these instances help with data movement of sheer amount of quantities of Nutanix files, which can be humongous sometimes, right? So really integrated scalability and forever incremental systems which we offload. So you need to have just the first full, and then from there on, we are able to perform just incremental backups of Nutanix files. So another great integration and a great use case we have with Nutanix, and which we use a lot. Two last things before we close it up and open it up for any questions. Another interesting use case where HYCU can be utilized is for migration to Nutanix. So if you have VMware which you want to move to Nutanix, it's rarely a one-day process, right? You just need to start protecting the VMware environments and slowly transition into HV. And this is where we fully support Nutanix, right? Another thing is physical machines. So if you have a physical machine which you want to move into Nutanix,
Right. We had a few questions while you were in full flow there, Marko. So let's see if we can answer some of them for you. Some of them have already been answered by Cody, but they'll be good to cover off. So does HYCU support Nutanix clusters?
Yeah, I did briefly mention that we can back up or restore into Nutanix clusters, right? We do fully support Nutanix clusters as well. So if customer has Nutanix clusters, HYCU can operate in the Nutanix clusters, be it on Amazon or Azure. We are, as far as I know, we are actually the only ones fully functioning and supported on Azure because of these VPCs directly. So we do fully support operating in NC2 clusters and backing up these workloads as well. And we can back up into Amazon, for instance, keep the data there and provide more cost-effective clusters, because you can power on the clusters only when you need to perform, only in case of disaster. So you can have everything pre-prepared. In case of disaster, you power on the cluster and you power on HYCU and you restore the data from the AWS or Azure, where the data is already uploaded by the HYCU backups.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Feel free to add any more if anyone else has got any questions. How does HYCU support clients needing local tape backup for long-term cost-effective storage?
So it's a tape, if I understand, it's a tape question. So yes. HYCU does support tapes through integration with QStar. So what you'll see also here under targets is we have a separate type of target, which is QStar, NFS, and SMB. So essentially, what you would do is you would have QStar installed on the media server, and HYCU is able to back up to this QStar media server, which offloads the data to the tapes.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Someone's asked a non-Nutanix related question, which I'm going to answer anyway. And they were asking around about the R-Graph piece. So how do they get the ability to be able to provide visibility for their customers' SaaS applications using our R-Graph? Absolutely, we have a registration page on our website, or get in touch with your fellow CAM partner account manager in territory, or contact myself. Be more than happy to help. But it is a free tool for you to use, and any one of our partners can utilize that. And obviously, it's a way of uncovering more revenue for you. So yeah, please get in touch. Any other questions? What else have we got? Does HYCU support Nutanix Kubernetes?
Yes, definitely. So what's with Nutanix Kubernetes, or OpenShift for that matter, where the data is actually kept is on the volume groups. And as I was mentioning, HYCU is the only solution which is able to recognize the volume groups and back them up. So we are able to back up the data, and we have a documented way how you do the mappings between these applications and the volume groups, and you're able to, in a very, very cost-efficient manner, I have to say, get a backup of the Nutanix Kubernetes, because some of the competitive applications might have visibility on the app level, for instance, but they do cost much more.
Amazing. Thanks, Marko. And the last one I've got here is, obviously you talked about MSPs. How is HYCU licensed for MSPs?
The MSP. So the MSP licensing is HYCU in general. It can be licensed on socket or VM basis. When it comes to MSPs, what we usually license, or we always license based on the VMs, and then allow the partner to cross-charge whatever they are using. So this gives them the ability to scale up and scale down and really charge on what they're actually protecting and actually using.
Amazing. Thanks, Marko. Any other questions? Please feel free to put them in the chat. No, I think we've obviously presented too well. There's no questions there, Marko. No more left.
Maybe too much.
Amazing. Great. So just to close this, obviously, thank you, Marko, very much. Thank you, Coley, for presenting to our EMEA and US channel. I hope it all was of interest to you all. Just to let you know, we are at .next with Nutanix, so we will be there. Please come and see us. It would be great to see you. If you do need any more information, obviously, contact myself or Marko or Coley, or your regional CAM. We do have some special promotions that we're going to be launching around Nutanix. So again, you know, watch this space for those. And again, if you're interested, please contact myself. You know, you've still got the Nutanix certification. Anyone wanting to do that, be amazing to have you on board as a certified HYCU with Nutanix. And also you've got the free trial. So please, you know, tell your customers, your prospects, and encourage them to download the free trial from HYCU. You know, it'd be great to showcase HYCU to your customers. And I will close the call now, but thank you so much for everyone joining, and have a great rest of the week. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.